Hello, welcome to another typology interview. We are with Virsaviya Ephraim here. Virsaviya, it's really nice to meet you. She actually just interviewed me for her YouTube channel, and they have a podcast going too with Evelyn.
With Evelyn.
Yep.
Yep.
And so, like, I really like your. I didn't listen to all of your episodes, but I really like especially your understanding. Like, I can tell that you had to fight for that understanding of all of the types and stuff, and you're. It's just such a good, clear, precise understanding that you have when you're giving over the information. So it's really nice. And it's
Oh,
also like
good.
if for anyone who wants to be introduced to the system, like because we're talking pretty much on a level where we both understand, like in all the
Hmm.
interviews and stuff. So yeah, anyone who really wants to get introduced to the system, you guys go through step by step all of the terms and concepts. So yeah, it's a good introductory podcast. So I'll put the link in the
Thank you so
description.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, of course. So I know a little bit about your type. Your lead FI, right?
Uh, Second savior is FI.
Second S. Okay, so SEFI.
SEFI. Yeah.
Okay. Well. Okay. All right. SE. How's that working out for you?
Well, it's weird. So I have that glass lizard thing going on.
Also,
So
okay.
even though I'm a savior with SE, I have my NI double activated. So I spend a lot of time organizing and intuiting and all of that, even though it's a demon. So it's a very rough relationship with NI. But I always feel like SE is the excitement is definitely when I can NI something, and the SE is just because anything that's at the polls is happening so automatically you don't even notice it. That to me it's like breathing. Well, of course I'm going to gather the facts before I do anything else. That just makes sense. That's
Right.
how my SE operates. I think.
Because you're missing play, does it mean that like you feel like you're less present and less in the moment, like you're further sitting back than most?
Definitely. Being present and in the moment is not a thing that I experience. It's something I really, really struggle with.
Okay, that's interesting. Do you like? Are you addicted to consuming? Like, are you spending all of your day getting in new information, or
I think um yes and no. Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. I spent most of my 20s living abroad and traveling. Like how that's the most SEOE thing that you can be doing.
right?
So absolutely yes, addicted to consuming in that way. But I also have preferences for how I like to consume. Um, Like if I'm trying to TE something, my favorite way to consume is like online. Let me go read how somebody else does it. Let me go watch a YouTube tutorial or a blog post. But if I'm trying to SE for like something that I want, my favorite place to SE is from people. Like I want to go. I think Andrea said this actually, um, and I only noticed this when I was watching her interview, where she is also SEFI, and she likes to. Her favorite thing to consume is people, and I also my favorite thing to consume is people, which is why OPS is so amazing.
Yeah, it sounds really strange if you don't know the lingo.
Uh,
Cannibalism here, yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so do you identify with like being an EP, like with the
Oh yeah.
chaos? Yeah, and your SE is
The,
masculine or feminine?
my SE is masculine.
Okay, so
I'm
yeah, go ahead. You wanted to say something about identifying with an EP.
Oh, it was the one thing that if Dave and Shannon had come back with me not being an AP, I would have had a really hard time, I think, understanding that. But I met Dave and Shannon a couple of weeks before I got my type back, and in my typing video, they're like, "Yeah, that was the first thing I clocked about you is that you're an EP." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, it's fine. I
Yeah.
get it."
So why do you think that's so easy to see on you?
Um, A couple of reasons. I think one is because I definitely have that problem of I gather before I narrow down. Um, and I definitely have a resistance to narrowing down. My preference is definitely to just keep things open, and I think that's a very OE
Hmm.
um, experience. I also, in like typical EP fashion, I'm a total control freak. Like, because I don't want to be controlled, I am the one doing the controlling. And it's not something that I like or enjoy or want to do, but end up doing because it's my way of not being controlled.
I see.
Like, if I'm the one controlling the situation, then the situation is not controlling me,
Right.
which
So
is not
it's yeah.
healthy.
So like this
What's
interview
that?
style here, it's not so good or what?
No, this is great.
Yeah. Okay. You
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
in
yeah.
control?
Um, well, I mean, I guess it's one-on-one is very different. I think a lot of that control comes in probably because I have play last, and any kind of SETE situations where like if the tribe, I'm with the tribe and we're trying to do something or we're trying to accomplish something, and I usually end up being the person who's leading things. Um, and I think that is one of the areas where my control comes out.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So with a FSE, so do you see the physical world as masculine, as non-movable?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. How do you notice that?
Uh, I think. Well, I noticed that you have MSc as well, right?
Yeah, MSE. Yeah. You have
Yeah.
FSE, right?
No, I have
Oh,
masculine
oh,
SE.
masculine SE. Okay, so
Yeah.
you see the world around you as feminine, like as
No,
movable.
my
You see the world around you as
the
movable.
sensory is masculine.
Yours is.
My
And then
sensory is
right.
masculine.
So then the world is movable. You can move the world.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes. I was actually just talking to Heather about this recently, that I think a lot of double masculines, because we have that, we want to move the sensory or like punch at the sensory and punch at the tribe, we get very restless if we're not doing things.
Oh, okay.
Where we just want to move things and get the ball rolling and just like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. No
Right.
matter where it is in our stack. At least that's what it feels like.
So you're double masculine. So that means like the whole world to you, even the tribe and even everything should seem feminine. Everything should seem movable. Like you
I
can
will punch at everything. Yeah.
yeah, interesting. Okay. And so your feminine FI then how is that? How do you see that?
It's a bitch.
Yeah?
I really struggle with it because the FI is a savior, and the natural inclination is to act from the self and to act from my values.
Right.
But the tribe is masculine and immovable. So when there's a situation where there's me and there's any other, it doesn't matter who, somebody, they automatically become the tribe. Whatever their thoughts, opinions, the situation, whatever it is this masculine thing that's immovable. So I end up having to move around it. And that makes it really hard to like lock down that FI. And the only way I've learned to do that is to remove the tribe, so then my FI doesn't feel like it needs to dance around something.
I
Does that
see.
make sense?
Do you think like your TE is really protecting your FI?
Oh, absolutely. That's what other people have noticed it about me.
Right.
That is, if I come out punching and swinging, I have some friends who they'll just come around me, like come around from the side and like get at the FI. And then all of a sudden that MTE will calm down, like make that FI feel safe.
Okay. Do you experience your FI as like what you like or how you feel or what?
Um, I think there's two main components to it. One is definitely those values driving everything, where all of my um, decisions are first checked against my values. And if something is somehow contrary to a core value, then it becomes very, very hard to reconcile that. And then I think the other side of it is, we don't talk about this too often, but I think um, FI and FE being attached with feelings and emotions, I think there is an element to that. And I think one thing with having savior feeling is that I um, can control my emotions
Hmm.
very, very well. So even say, for example, I'm in a situation, a professional situation, and something happens that like absolutely upsets me, wrecks me. All I want to do is like get into a ball, curl up into a ball and cry. In that moment, I can control that. I can handle it and wait until I have the time and space to
Yeah.
let that emotion happen. And
Like
I think that's because
delay its expression sort of thing.
yeah. And
Okay.
not in a like pushing it away, pretending it's not there way, but in a just like, this is not the appropriate moment. I'll wait until
Right.
it is appropriate. Then I'll let myself feel it.
So you'll acknowledge that you do feel that and you'll deal with it later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something you need to teach me how to do. Cool.
It's not an easy thing.
No? Okay.
No. But on the other side of it is like, the demon tribe. I can't work through the complexities of the tribe, like the contradictions of the tribe. It becomes very black or white.
Right. So, okay, but like if someone likes something and you don't like it, would you like still experience it and try to learn to like it, or
Oh, well, yes. And I attribute a lot of that to having a masculine tribe.
right.
Um, I will, having masculine tribe and masculine SE often means that sure, I'll try anything once and I'm open to something. Unless it's like contrary to like, I'm not going to try, I don't know, killing someone,
Yeah,
like that's
yeah.
contrary to my FI. That's contrary to most
Right.
people's FI. But I'll try anything once. Um, and if it's not in any major way once I have that experience, running contrary to my values, then um, if my tribe, for whatever reason, really wants me or needs me to do that thing again, then I will, even though it's uncomfortable or unwanted for me. I just might punch at it at first.
Right.
And I'll try to bring the tribe around to my side. And if that doesn't work, then I'll be like, okay, fine.
Right. Okay.
If
Do you
that
see
makes sense.
yourself as a double decider? Like, do you see that your TE
Yes.
comes in to play a lot? Yeah.
Yeah, very much so, very strongly.
Have you had like? Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say the Candace class um, really drove that home for me.
Okay. Do you
I
want to
don't know if
explain that a little bit for people who aren't in the class?
yeah, so Candace Owens is someone who, when she was in high school, experienced something. She's a Black woman, and when she was in high school, or when she was a little older, some high schoolers, um, I don't remember the details, pulled this really racist prank on her and all of this stuff. And when she talks about it, her freak out is not on the fact that somebody did this to her. She's like, well, they were kids. I can understand why she was doing why they were doing it. No, it didn't feel good. So she's going back and forth between herself and the tribe really easily.
Right.
And I definitely experienced double deciding that way.
Yeah, like you can see the other person's perspective easily, and not take things to heart too often.
Yeah. I think, for example, I have an ex who um, it was not a healthy relationship. It wasn't a very good relationship. Um, but at the same time, knowing how she grew up and knowing what all of her baggage is and why she behaved the way that she behaved, it's like, well, it's okay. I can understand it. Like, no, I'm not going to let you treat me that way, but I'm not going to um, demonize you either because I get why you're behaving the way that you're behaving.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So you're able to navigate those situations that are like tougher for people who don't have the two deciders to see the other person's perspective, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the TE, do you experience it as a demon, or do you feel like it's a savior for you?
I think my TE is fairly strong. I definitely see it as a demon. It's my single activated demon. So even though I have NI at the pole, um, my like idiot light dashboard is on my TE because it's only single activated, and I definitely see when I get stuck with the tribe where if it's okay, so it's because I'm acting from my FI. When I do act from my TE, there is this like, oh my God, praise me! Look at what I did. You should
Right.
praise me for all of this, right? And when I don't get that validation, it's well, I mean, I think it's painful for all of us. But I get into that like IP swing of like, well, fuck it all. Sorry, I don't know if your kids can hear.
It's okay.
Um, where I get into that space of like, oh, right. um, well, if you're not behind me, then I don't need you. That kind of like I can do it on my own attitude.
Right.
And I could definitely see that in terms of like if the tribe isn't on board, fine, I'll go at it by myself.
Okay.
That part of it is definitely that demon part of it. I definitely see in my life.
So you do see that you are mostly self above tribe as well? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I do think my MTE is strong because I can do the TE work of like this is what works for the tribe. I can do that very well, I think.
Right.
Um, but when I do get stuck or I do experience pain or I do experience those observer freakouts, a lot of it ends up coming back or is triggered by some kind of tribe
Oh, okay. So it's
interaction.
like a combination between tribe and control, I guess.
Yes, very much
Okay.
so. If the
All right.
tribe is trying to control me, I am not a happy person.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So then from there, from your consume, you go right into sleep with your demon NI.
Mhm.
Um, how do you experience your sleep?
It is this nonstop need to know why I value what I value, why I feel what I feel. I mean, like nonstop need. Um,
And
I
you're
didn't.
deciphering
I
it all the time?
Yes, and it's very much a blocker. Like they talk about the animals being filters sometimes, and I think that's very very accurate in the sense that um, I can't sleep until I've consumed enough. Once I consume enough, then I do consume sleep. Once I consume and sleep something, like once I've gathered all the facts and I know how and why I feel what I feel about them, what I value about them, why I value it, then I can move on to my blasting. So but that like figuring out of the why I feel what I feel, why I value what I value, um, can be a really big blocker. And if I get stuck on it, if something comes out of the blue, I will have like a 24, 48-hour freak out until I can NIFI figure out what the hell is going on.
So do you stay in your sleep when you try to figure it out, or maybe you get outside opinions, or what happens there? Like what?
I pop up into consume. Like when I
Okay.
can't NIFI, I will go consume. I will bug a bunch of people and ask them what they think, why they feel what they feel, what would they do in this situation, all of those things. I will go gather all of that sensory and then I'll go back into sleeping and trying to NIFI it. And if I
Right.
fail at that, then I'll go and consume some more.
And do you feel like once you've understood something, you understand it very well because of that, because you have to work so hard for it?
Um, I understand it very well as it applies to myself through the sleep. And then the blasting is what helps me understand it for the tribe, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yep.
Like
It
the
makes sense.
NT part of it.
It's like, so you're going to blast it in a way that works for everyone else, that works for the tribe.
Yeah, yeah. But it's informed by that SE, right? So I have that NI, but all of that SE is feeding that NI blast, NITE blast. So
Okay.
um, does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense, but maybe you can explain it, how the mechanics actually work, if you can. I don't know. It sounds pretty
So
impossible.
for example, right now at work, I've been really struggling. This is the first time I've ever had a job I'm really struggling at. So that's a novel experience on its own. But I have been struggling. I've been at this job for a little under half a year. And I see now that I am struggling because I have not SE'd enough because our code base is so big. We have so much legacy, and there's a language that we use in our code base that I'm still not very comfortable with. And part of that is because I have not SE'd enough of what is happening, what is going on in our code base, how the language works, how the frameworks work, all of that stuff. I need to go SE more of it.
Right.
Then, well, in this case, the FI doesn't really apply because I have no problems with the frameworks that we use. But before I can NT things and like produce work for like, I have to narrow it down and I have to organize the NI of it. And I'm struggling to do that. So if I can't do it, then I go and find it from outside sources.
Right.
And once I have narrowed it down and I can see that the patterns in all of the SE, then I feel like I can start producing good quality work.
Right.
Does that make
It makes sense for me because I also have SENI. So yeah.
sense? Yeah. So that part has been kicking my ass, and I'm trying to approach it differently. But anyway, that's another matter
Right.
entirely.
Right. So they expect you to understand something that's like very complicated, and you need to
Hmm.
basically put in the work to get the understanding. And they're
Yeah.
expecting you to understand it already and produce things, but you don't have enough time to really figure it out yet.
Yeah. So either someone needs to give me the NI, right? Somebody needs to give me the context. Somebody needs to give
Right.
me that single unifying pattern that
Right.
brings it all together. Or somebody needs to give me enough time and space for me to figure it out on my own. But
Yeah.
in order for me to figure it out on my own, I need to consume SE like a
Right.
lot of stuff.
And so then once you have that pattern, that understanding, it works for you. You understand it very well. Like you don't have any problems. Yeah.
Well, I mean, uh, I think I have a very good, deep understanding of it. Like, for
Right.
example, OPS. Um, when I got my type, I think I don't remember when I mentioned this. I thought I was Evelyn's type, which is double masculine, NETE, play, consume, blast, sleep. That's what I
Right.
thought my type was. And literally the night before I got my type, I emailed Dave and Shannon and I'm like, yeah, I would be okay if you guys came back with ST or NF, but I really would like, I'm not SF. And of course they came back with SF.
Right.
But what that did was there were things that I saw in my own behavior, and there was parts of the system that I understood. And getting that type back actually showed where the parts of the system I didn't understand in the way that I thought I did.
Okay, I see.
So it gave me more SE that I could then gather and be like, okay, so this NI, because my NI is movable, this NI is like, oh, that's not quite what I thought it was. That's not the pattern that I have been seeing. It's actually this.
Right. Yeah, that's something that I hear a little bit, like not very often, but every so often I hear that like getting your type back really helps you figure out the system in a way that you wouldn't if you didn't have your type narrowed down properly. Yeah. And
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
see it also in practice. I see people who are trying to type, like trying to actually type people, they do better once they have their type nailed in.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of
Yeah.
value there because at the end of the day, like, Dave and Shannon have 45 minutes, maybe longer, depending on if you met them, to type you. And there's a lot that you could potentially see from that. But you have your whole life with yourself. And yes, there's subjectivity to it, but at the same time, I'm the only person who is the expert on me,
Right.
if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And so I have the potential to see the patterns in my own behavior um, over the course of my whole life, right? So I am the expert on me, and they are the expert on the system. So if they are somehow not reconciling, then what the chances are that it's my understanding of the system that's wrong because I know me.
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I want to wrap this up, but I want to give you maybe just a
Mhm.
chance to like give a message or let us know how you've seen yourself grow now that you know your type and you know your weaknesses.
Oh man, that's a really good question. I I really struggled coming back with play last. I thought I was sleep last. And now I see very much that I am play last and that going with the tribe without just like SETEing with the tribe rather than coming at it with organized information first. Like because I have NITE before SETE, I want organized information before I take it to the tribe rather than gathering with the tribe. I had never realized how uncomfortable that makes me and how much I struggle to do that. And that's actually, I think, part of the struggle that I have with my job right now as well. And I think recognizing that has allowed me to um, take more chances where I wouldn't have before, if that makes sense.
Take more chances
Where,
at gathering with the tribe?
yeah, where before I would have like, oh no, it's okay, like stepped aside from that, or turned it into a rather than SETE gathering with the tribe, turned it more into of a blasting, consuming, alternating with the tribe. Does that make sense? And so I'm able to recognize that this is playing, and the reason I feel uncomfortable is because everyone is playing and I'm not, and allowing myself to just like, okay, just take a chance. It's okay. Make yourself uncomfortable. You'll be fine. Okay, that was enough. Okay, you can take a break.
Wow.
Like, and
Right.
I think I have a lot more growth to do in
Yeah.
that area. But I think I have grown. Just earlier today with some of my coworkers during lunch, I was doing some of that, and I was like mentally giving myself a pat on the back, like, "All right, good job."
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah. So check out Virsaviya's podcast with Evelyn and her YouTube channel. You have one something else you want to promote, or that's
No,
enough?
just those objectively
Yeah.
typed. Yeah. Um,
Awesome.
will be Bo Burnham episode is dropping tomorrow. So if you want to discuss his type, I'll be posting a thread later.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much. Nice to talk to you, Virsaviya.
Yeah, it was really nice to finally meet you.
Okay. Bye.
Have a good night. Bye.